This homeless man is just sitting quietly on the train. Peace is soon disturbed when a group of young thugs enters the wagon. The thugs bump into two other passengers, making it clear that they are looking for trouble. One of the other passengers shows them a gun, but the leader of the thugs, Anton, is not scared of it. Anton and his group manage to scare the other guys, who plainly walk away.
Get you.
After telling his friends that they are going to move some weapons this week, Anton sees the homeless man and thinks that this is a good time to make some new friends. The young troublemaker tries to steal the man's alcohol, but the man grabs his hand and holds tight to it. This man is not just any homeless man. In fact, his name is John Reese, a special agent who has seen quite some action in the past. Anton tries to pull his hand away, but John holds it firmly. Then, he decides to release it, but Anton is still not happy. He teases John, saying that he has not brought enough alcohol for the whole group.
You bring enough for the whole group?
These young guys have no idea who they are messing with, so that's probably why they try to corner John. John acts fast and takes care of them, breaking their hands, kneeing their sensitive areas, and hitting their throats just enough to make them gasp for air. The five of them are taken to the police station. Officer Carter takes a look at the video footage and then enters the room where John is being kept. Carter jokes with him, saying that he should have done her a favor and land some more punches on those punks. Carter tries to make small talk. John remains silent, but Carter comes up with an idea to find out who he is. She offers John some water and replaces his previous plastic cup with the new one. She is very careful to carry the cup while touching it on the inside instead of grabbing it like a normal human being would. Carter excuses herself and gives the cup to her guy in the service. The forensics guy scans the cup for fingerprints and then compares them against the police database. They find out John's real name and that he has been involved in multiple crime scenes. In addition, there are 4 active arrest warrants for him in 4 different countries. He is definitely a man with a long story. Even though Carter would love to know more, but he is soon released by a mysterious lawyer. The lawyer takes him to his employer, Harold Finch, who wants to have a talk with Reese. As it appears, Harold is a rich man with lots of access to information. He seems to know everything about John's past. He also knows that John is trying to drink himself to death, so he proclaims that he is what John needs, which is a purpose and a job. Finch takes him to the center of New York City to tell him that somebody dies every 18 hours in New York. But what if they could stop that? Finch claims that he has a list of people who are about to be involved in crimes. He points John to a woman named Hanson, and tells him that something is going to happen involving her. The problem with Harold's list is that he can't know if the name on the list is going to be the victim or the perpetrator. Therefore, he wants John to follow this woman, find out what is going to happen and save the victim involved. On the other hand, John believes that Harold is just a rich man who is stalking his ex-girlfriend, so he plainly walks away. Harold's men try to stop him, but John handles them in a matter of seconds. Later, Reese spends some time in a hotel, shaving in order to change his appearance. That night, Finch sets him up by playing a recording of a murder that took place 3 years ago, right inside the next-door hotel room where John is spending the night. Finch jokes by saying that John is too late, adding that he was also late for his friend Jessica. This reveals that Reese had a girlfriend he loved and lost. Although John is angry at Finch,
What the hell do you know about it? It's the truth.
he is convinced to work with him because they could potentially save some people by sticking together. Harold takes him to a place he uses as a center of operations, and John realizes that Harold's list does not include names but rather the social security numbers of the people potentially involved in crimes. John gets to work and narrows down Hanson's enemies to 2 people. One of them could be a lawyer named Wheeler,
The first is Wheeler, her co-counselor.
who used to date Hanson but she broke up with him. The other one could be a gangster named Pope, who was sent to jail by Hanson. As John continues following her, he attends Pope's trial, where Detective Fusco is giving his statement. But after the trial, Hanson scolds Fusco because he got off script without her knowing. Later, Hanson visits Pope in prison to tell him that she believes he is not the one guilty of the crime attributed to him. John hears on the microphone installed in her phone that Pope has a younger brother named Michael, whom he is trying to protect. As it is implied, Pope is lying about the murder he supposedly committed to protect his brother from the real murderers because Michael witnessed them committing a killing. The next day, Wheeler enters Hanson's office to learn more about Mike by searching her computer, so John suspects that he is involved somehow. That night, the bad guys get to Michael first, but John intervenes and shoots their truck with a grenade launcher. Reese saves Michael, and also steals some badges from these bad guys, revealing that they are dirty cops. Reese starts watching over them and finds out that they are working with Fusco. The dirty cops kill people to keep their mouths shut, while Fusco sets up innocent people to go to jail. Now, John wants to know more about Harold's list, and the latter reveals that after the attack of 9/11, the government hired him to build a machine that combines information on people, receiving that information from all the cameras and microphones in the country. The machine produces two kinds of lists, one focused on possible terrorist attacks and one focused on other kinds of crimes. Harold has built a backdoor to receive this second list, but all they get is the social security numbers, so they have to do some work to find out what is going to happen. John continues his work while he believes that Hansen is in danger, but as it appears, Hansen is working with the dirty cops, who also killed Pope last night in his cell. Hansen tells the dirty cops to also kill Wheeler because he is digging too much.
The problem is Wheeler.
While Fusco appears behind John and points a gun at him, John escapes Fusco's custody, as he is taking him to the desert in order to kill him, and returns to New York. The dirty cops are about to kill Wheeler while they frame a thug for it, but Reese is right on time to stop them. Then, he takes care of Hansen by mixing some recordings up. Finally, he blackmails Fusco to work for him, because he is going to need somebody from the inside to work for him. A few days later, John enters an elevator and starts speaking with a guy named Bill. He asks the man if the flowers he is holding are for his wife, but Reese already knows the answer. He starts saying that some women abandon their partners when they learn that they cheat on them, but other women hire two guys to make it look like a robbery gone wrong. With that, Reese takes up the two guys following Bill and tells him to call a good divorce lawyer. The next day, the machine has a new number for Harold and John to work on. This time the number belongs to a girl named Teresa, but her case is a bit special. Harold takes John to the cemetery and tells him that Teresa is supposed to be there. Her father was a real estate developer, but the market crashed and he went bankrupt. That drove him crazy, and he killed his family on a weekend trip before turning the gun on himself. Harold proclaims that the machine sees everything, so if her number showed up, it means that the girl is alive. Reese visits Fusco to ask to get this case's file from the police, and Fusco has no other choice but to oblige. After reading the file, John tells Finch that this was a professional hit. The hitman made it look like the father did it.
Made it look point blank, like the father did it.
Harold wonders how Reese knows it, and the latter explains that this is the way he would do it. Soon, Finch uses his technology to find the girl, and John goes after her. Teresa understands that she is being followed and manages to escape before John can get a hold of her. John visits Harold in an office where he seems to be working. As it is revealed, Harold owns the company, and just works there so he can hide in plain sight. John also gives Harold a little device that Teresa left behind. This device records card information when people use their credit cards in ATMs. Apparently, Teresa makes a living by stealing card information and then withdrawing money. Then, Reese asks around the streets to learn about the killer who got the contract for Teresa's family, and learns that a guy nicknamed Solnick did it. The hitman is now in jail because he got arrested for another case. John visits him and asks him why he did not kill the girl. Solnick replies that he has a code, and he would never kill a kid. He just told the girl that if she told anybody about him, he would come for her to finish the job. Reese wants to know who hired him, but Solnick says that he only met the man who hired him once and he got paid in cash. No names were exchanged. Soon, Teresa tries to sell some banking information online, and Finch is able to track her. Reese finds her, but they are intercepted by an assassin who was after the girl. John saves the girl and takes her to a hotel, where she reveals that her father blamed her uncle Derek for what happened to him. John finds Derek, and discovers that he worked with two big contractors to kill his brother because his land would be inherited by him. They did it because that piece of land is now worth 40 times its old value. However, they are now looking to kill Teresa, because they know that she will inherit her father's land if some legal entity discovers that she is alive. John finds one of these big contractors and runs a large truck over his car. Reese asks the man to call off the hit on Teresa, but the man says that it is already happening. Back at the hotel, the assassin is trying to find Teresa, while Harold tries to get the girl outside via the fire escape. The assassin finds them and points his gun at them, but John appears right on time and kills the assassin. A day later, John calls Agent Carter and tells her that it is time for them to meet. Carter brings some secret officers with her, but the only thing she finds is Teresa. When she takes the girl to the police station to reunite her with her aunt, Carter tries to extract some information from her, but the girl claims her painful experience has caused her some kind of trauma and she can't recall much information about the man who helped her. Finally, Reese visits Harold in his office again, but the latter has moved to another office. When John calls him, Harold reminds him that he is a very private person and asks Reese not to call him. Harold will only call him when they need to talk. Harold and John do not have much time available to rest, as the machine gives them a new number soon. Finch finds out that the number belongs to a guy named Joey, who was a soldier in the military and has received various medals for his bravery. Reese starts watching over Joey, who works as a groom at a hotel.
You look fabulous, Mrs. J.
Soon, Joey sends a weird message to a number and leaves work. John follows him, and they end up inside a bank. Joey wears a mask while his accomplices enter the bank and commit a robbery. John is unable to do anything as he is pinned on the ground. The guard tries to reach for his gun, but John stops him because this is not a good idea. After the robbery, Harold wants to get done with this case and suggests they turn Joey into the police before anybody gets killed.
Or someone winds up dead.
Finch.
However, Reese wants to learn how such a good soldier got involved with armed bank robberies. He watches over Joey for a while and figures out that he is connected to a network of former soldiers who commit robberies. Reese finds the information he needs in order to construct a good story and meets a former sergeant named Sam, who owns a bar. He claims he is looking for a job with a high pay and a supposed dead Marine friend of his suggested Sam in the past. A few days later, Finch sets up the team's driver so he can be arrested by the police.
We got weapons here. Shotguns, something.
This opens up a slot for Reese to be a part of the team and he has his first meeting with Joey and his team. In the meantime, Carter watches the footage from the bank and sees the back of John's body saving the security guard by preventing him from grabbing his gun. When John meets Harold again, he claims that Joey does not look like the kind of guy who would kill somebody.
Joey's not one of them.
It's one thing to kill when you are at war and another to kill innocent people. Reese pretends to meet with Joey randomly and starts asking him when they are going to do a job. Joey explains that depends on Sam because he is the one who gives the orders. The two of them grow a bit closer after they pick a fight with two bankers. So Reese starts asking if Joey has any kids because he knows that this soldier is connected to two different women. Joey wants to keep his business private, so he just says that he has some obligations to take care of. A few days later, the gang calls Reese for a mission, while the police manage to find out the identity of one of the gang members. The group robs an underground gambling site that belongs to the mafia, and they leave the place right before the police get there. Sam prepares the team for another hit, and Harold believes that it is time to put an end to this. Reese asks for some more time because he wants to protect Joey. He's learned that one of the women he meets is his girlfriend while the other one is the wife of his buddy at war. His buddy has a daughter, and Joey has made it his mission to gather some money for her so she can grow up comfortably.
His wife had just had a baby.
John joins the gang in their next mission, which is to steal the evidence of a case that has something to do with somebody named Elias. Finch discovers that Sam is setting the team up and warns Reese about it. When the guys hand the case files to Sam, he kills them, but Reese manages to save Joey and advises him to skip town. Later, Sam hands the case evidence to an unknown person. When Reese finds him, Sam is already dead. After all the stress these guys go through, Harold decides that it is a good time for him to visit the doctor. Although he experiences some back pain and needs some pills, his main purpose for visiting is to steal Dr. Tillman's hospital radio. The machine is given her number and the good guys have to find out what's going on with her. John starts watching over her and realizes that she is quite a lonely person. She is all work and no fun. One night though, Tillman decides to go out and a guy hits on her. He tries to follow her, but Reese takes care of him. But back inside the club, Reese sees a guy named Andrew who bumped into Tillman earlier that day. Reese repays the favor and bumps into him, only to find out that this man carries some drugs with him. John learns from the bartender that Tillman visits the club every night alone. Most probably, she has gotten Andrew's attention. The next day, John breaks into Andrew's apartment and steals his files from his computer. When he reviews them with Harold, they find that Andrew is a predator and he is constantly looking for opportunities to exploit women. He also has a criminal record from college, but that record has been officially deleted. In the meantime, Carter reviews the footage from John's team when they entered the headquarters to steal the case files. She understands that one of the thieves had a brief interaction with Harold.
And look, little guy says something back, right there.
and they exchanged some words. Later that night, John watches as Andrew approaches Tillman in the bar. The two of them have a quick flirting encounter before leaving the bar. Andrew invites Tillman back to his house, but the doctor is not up for it. As Andrew walks away, Tillman follows him and uses a camera to zoom in and watch his moves more closely. John calls Finch to tell him that Andrew is not stalking Tillman, but rather the doctor is stalking the banker. John goes to Fusco to help him get Andrew's old file. When he reads it, John puts the dots together. In college, Andrew was accused of sexually assaulting a young woman, but the charges were dropped because nothing could be proven since the girl was 2 days late to report the incident. Later, that girl committed the unthinkable by consuming too many drugs. But that girl was not just any girl, she was Dr. Tillman's sister, so the doctor is looking for revenge. The machine gave them her number because she is going to try to kill Andrew. As for Harold, he gets a visit from Carter, who asks him what the robber told him. Of course, Harold lies, and claims that the robber told him not to stare at him. In the meantime, John continues his investigation, and discovers that Tillman has bought enough chemicals to make Andrew's body dissolve after she kills him. John's plan is to make Andrew disappear somehow so that Tillman can't execute her plan. Reese does what he has in mind, and causes an accident using Andrew's car, while he has loaded it with drugs. The police arrest Andrew, but he is let go the next day. Reese thinks this should not be happening, but Fusco explains that this guy is rich and has 4 lawyers with suits more expensive than his yearly salary. That night, Tillman enters Andrew's apartment and tases him. Then, he drugs him and carries him to her van in a wheelchair. However, John intervenes and asks Tillman to sit with him because he knows who she is carrying to the back of her van.
Guy, you got tied up in the back of the van.
John manages to convince her not to kill Andrew, because if she does, the most important part of herself will die. Tillman is not a killer, but rather a person who helps people. Reese takes Andrew to a secluded location, and the two of them start an interesting conversation. Actually, John tries to determine if he should allow Andrew to live because people might change, or if he should kill him because people do not change. John wonders if there are good people in this world anymore or if there are just good decisions to make. He also wonders if he will regret more allowing Andrew to live or killing him. Finally, John asks Andrew to help him reach a good decision, and the episode cuts to black. A few days later, the machine gives Finch the next social security number, which corresponds to a man named Samuel Gates. Samuel works at a Supreme Court as a judge, and the rumor has it that he is very fair. He is a tough judge who has declared war on crime. Consequently, it is not unlikely for him to have made many enemies. John follows him around, and realizes that a few guys are after the judge. One of them is about to make a move, so Reese prepares for a fight. But then he sees the man pulling his phone out, sending a message and throwing it in the dumpster. John turns around to grab that phone, and reads a message that talks about Samuel's son finishing school. John says they have been following the wrong person,
I think we've been following the wrong Sam Gates.
while at the same time, some bad guys try to kidnap Samuel's son. Reese tries to stop these men, and engages in a fight with them, but one of them pulls a pistol and shoots him. Reese drops unconscious, while the bad guys take the kid away. Soon, the judge receives a phone call from the kidnappers, who tell him that they have his son. They prompt him to wait for their call and not tell anyone about this. The judge is devastated by this news, so John decides to get near him to try to help.
Who are you?
I'm here to help you.
He tells the judge that the kidnappers will keep his son alive as long as he is useful to them. Samuel wants to know who John is, but he is just somebody who is trying to help. The two of them get to the judge's house, and the man wonders how the kidnappers got past his alarm. John tells the judge to wait for the next call of the kidnappers while he goes to the nanny's house. As he does, he is on the phone with Finch, who is trying to hack the cell phone company in order to trace the phone call the kidnappers made to the judge. For now, Finch can't do it, while Reese finds out that the nanny is dead. Most probably, the kidnappers got past the alarm by extracting the code from her.
Kidnappers killed the nanny.
Later, Finch helps John find one of the guys he saw earlier, and Reese beats him up. When the man falls unconscious, John uncovers his chest and realizes that he has a tattoo that means he is a member of a gang called SP9. Originally, this gang is from Eastern Europe, but somehow they are here now, or they have opened a branch in New York. That night, the kidnappers call the judge, but what they want is not money. They want the judge to throw the case of a woman named Angela. If the woman walks free, then they will give Samuel his son back. When they hang up, the judge reveals that Angela's case is a simple one. She ran over somebody and abandoned him. In the meantime, Finch learns that the SP9 gang has expanded their operations, and they have built a presence in around 18 countries. The next day, Samuel has to rule Angela's trial and he helps her case go well. However, he stalls as long as he can before reaching a decision. The gang boss calls him to ask him to stop playing games, but Samuel proclaims that he has to do this the right way. As for Reese, he has interrogated the guy he caught earlier, and has gotten the location of a place where the man goes to get paid. He visits the place and finds $500,000 there after beating two guys guarding the money. Finch listens to Angela's conversation with the gang boss on the phone and puts the dots together. Angela works in a bank that is producing some kind of software that spots money laundering, but she can turn it off with a click on her computer. Most likely, she is working with the gang boss to help him launder his money. The gang uses online payment methods to pay for their expenses, including human assets such as lawyers. The next day, Finch pretends to be working at the bank and steals some information from the servers. As the trial continues, John tries to find Samuel's son, but the kid is not in the place John believed him to be. Since the judge has no news of him, he is forced to free Angela of all charges.
Not guilty on all charges.
The gang boss calls Samuel to go pick up his son, but John knows that they are going to kill the judge. When Samuel arrives at the location, the bad guys prompt him to say goodbye to his son, but Reese appears with Angela and cites the information he knows. Angela turns the algorithm off for 3 minutes every morning in the bank so the SP9 can perform their transactions. That's how she is connected to the bank. The gang boss believes that the whole operation is burned.
The operation's burnt.
So he orders his guys to kill everybody. The interaction results in a shootout, with the bad guys losing. Eventually, Finch hands some evidence to a lawyer, so they can send Angela to prison, while the police find her tied up along with the gangsters.
NYPD, anybody home?
John Reese has to pretend he is a driver to get in touch with the next person that the machine points him to. He meets with a woman named Zoe Morgan, and pretends to be her new driver. Zoe is careful, so she calls the company to ask if they really sent her a new driver, but Finch is the one who answers the call and covers for John. John drives her to a location where she pays a guy to get a gun, but back in her apartment, Finch finds another gun. John comments that the only reason she would buy a second gun is because it is untraceable. Zoe changes her clothes, while John drives her to an event. He decides to follow her because he believes she might be the perpetrator. At the event, Zoe meets with a high-ranked officer and hands him the gun. Their conversation reveals that a police officer lost his gun, and Zoe just retrieved it for him to save him the trouble. Lastly, John drives Zoe back home, and she tells him to meet her again tomorrow.
Be here tomorrow, 10 sharp.
Finch asks John what he believes is going on, and the latter explains that she is a fixer. She does some favors for money. In a case like hers, there might be many people who would want her dead. In the meantime, the police find the dead body of a man who used to be the main suspect in an old case involving a dead woman named Marlene Elias. The case file that was stolen in earlier episodes belonged to her. Carter communicates with the detective who used to work this case, and he reveals quite some information. Marlene Elias was working as a waitress in a cocktail bar owned by a mafia don. The don had an affair with her, and Marlene wanted him to divorce his wife. The don got tired of her and hired this dead man to kill her back then. His case was bought by the don, and the killer walked free. Marlene Elias and the don had a son, who might be the one who ordered the stealing of the case file and killed the main suspect in his mother's case. Soon, Zoe gets in trouble with a guy named Mark Lawson, who was an heir to a huge pharmaceutical. He had her retrieve a recording showcasing his illegal affair, and after killing the reporter who had the recording, he now wants to kill Zoe as well to cut any loose ends. John intervenes and saves Zoe, while Finch poses as a major shareholder in the pharmaceutical in order to meet Mark. Harold's investigation reveals that Mark killed the woman he had an affair with, but things are a bit more complicated. Apart from having an affair with her, the woman was about to expose a huge scandal about one of the company's drugs. Mark could not let that happen, and took the girl out of the equation. John and Zoe break into the pharmaceutical's headquarters, and recover some deleted files from the main computer. Finch puts the info together, and finds out that the company's new drug has a mortality rate of 3%.
6 people out of 200, that's a 3% mortality rate.
Which is too high. The company had tested the drug on some people, but they are all dead now. Most probably, they paid the authorities to keep this under their radar, so they could get the approval for their drug. Unfortunately, John and Zoe get caught. As they are tied up, Mark is about to kill them, but Zoe says that she has mailed a copy of the report to a person she trusts.
Hope you don't mind. I emailed a copy to a friend.
Mark negotiates with her, and Zoe agrees to take him to the guy who has the report if he promises to let her live. Before they go, Zoe tells John that he should not have trusted her, while she slips a paperclip in his hands. John cuts himself loose, kills the guy who was guarding him, and then finds Zoe in order to save her. The team of the good guys makes the information they have public, and the pharmaceutical is brought down, finally paying for their crimes. As they part ways, John tells Zoe to stay out of trouble,
Stay out of trouble.
but she replies that's not an option for her.